And welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. The Everyday People Show is proudly brought to you by the good guys at the 6minutewebinar.com. Today, Tamara and I have a wonderful guest on, Mr. Pete Cohen. He's joined us from the UK, so it's 9 o'clock at night over there, 3 o'clock here in Texas, and whatever time it is at your house is the correct time. But before we bring Tamara and Pete to the show, we just want to have a brief message. We'll be right back right after this message.
Welcome to Everyday People, the show that is dedicated to recognizing people from all walks of life who go the extra mile and make a difference in their community. Hi, I'm Charlene Fouts. The 6 Minute Webinar proudly supports a show that is dedicated to recognizing people, everyday people, just like you and me, who go that extra mile and make a difference by serving others and serving their community. Tamara Blankenship and Jim Grant will host this show. I can't wait to see who's on today. I'll see you after the show. Now here's Jim and Tamara.
And welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad that you're with us today. And personally, as I bring Tamara to the stage here, and Tamara, our show is continuing just to go and grow and grow and grow. And people ask me, how do we do it? How do we keep getting these upticks? And
it's your lovely personality. They're just excited to meet you, Jim.
Okay, I can handle that. But the truth of it is, ladies and gentlemen, it's the guest. Because this show originally started as just a Facebook Zoom live show back during the pandemic, because we just wanted to reach out and do something. And it just took legs and walked by itself. And we actually backed into being on TV. We really did, because we were invited and they took a look at us and said, hey, you guys got a good show. And so that's how it all came about. But it was all about the interest that our guests shared as far as caring for one another. And then being on TV, you guys have really shared the program. You've watched the program. Like I say, the tick marks keep going up and up. And I'm as humble, and I just want to just say thank you so very, very much. And Tamara, it's a pleasure to be with you every Friday. I just love this show.
We have so much fun. So amazing people. And I'm super excited to get a chance to spend some time today working with Pete and introducing him to all of you. He's had some amazing stories to share with us and some great offers. So stay to the end and make sure you get a chance to hear what he's got going on.
And speaking of Mr. Pete, there he is. How you doing, sir? He's the inspiration. I like that, man. I like that.
Thank you. Listen, I'm honored. I'm deeply honored whenever I get an opportunity to speak. It's something I really kind of relish, and I'm honored that I get to speak to you guys who you're quite a few thousand miles away, but I think we're connected by some very similar ideas, in inspiring people and wanting to make this world a better place. So I'm very thankful for both of you for what you do. And I'm excited to see where this conversation might go and who we might help along the way.
Absolutely.
You're exactly right, because the way Tamara and I do a show, we just roll with the information that comes to us, and we don't script anything, because that will always paralyze you, number one. Number two, it kills the energy, because the energy is what flows out from the show, and Tamara's intelligence puts the icing on the cake, and that's what makes it work. That's true. I'm just being straight up with you.
Well, we were just talking. I mean, we've obviously just got to know each other very briefly before the show, but when Tamara was telling me about where she's from in Phoenix, I said, I remember driving from Sedona down to Phoenix. And Sedona is one of the most, when I saw the Grand Canyon for the first time, I actually remember thinking, how did this happen? How was it created? I got there late at night, so I couldn't actually see. And then in the morning, I said to the woman, where's the Grand Canyon? And she went, oh, it's just over there. So I walked, and then I saw it for the first time. And then I just remember thinking, how did this happen? Who made this? And then driving to Sedona and seeing that again, it was like just just this beautiful earth that obviously we sometimes take for granted. But
Jim, I think he got kissed by the vortex.
oh, the vortexes, yeah, and
Yeah.
you can feel that energy under the ground,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
I mean, nature is everything, right? You know, and I like the picture actually, Jim, behind you. Where is that? Where is that picture?
Okay, that is the Mule Mountains. It's in the southeastern corner of the state in a little county called Cochise, and it's in the town of Bisbee, Arizona. I have a daughter that's buried in Bisbee, and so that's why I keep the mountains behind me, because it reminds me of her, where her final resting place is. And I have a little home there in Bisbee. So that's in Bisbee, as I like to say, Bisbee, Arizona.
I've never been to Bisbee, you know.
It's fun to say.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been to lots of places in America. I remember going on a road trip. This is a weird road trip from Dallas to Louisiana to Mississippi to Alabama.
Alabama.
Yeah, and America is just so it's so amazing, but it's so different, and the accents, you know. I mean, right. Jim, you do sound to me. I'm hopefully you'll take this as a compliment, but you do sound a little bit like Elvis. I'm sorry to say,
a little bit like Elvis. It's the sideburns, brother. See that affects the tongue.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome. You definitely got that Texas swang going on.
Yeah.
That's right. I called Lyle Diet.
Yeah. I didn't realize other people had an accent. I went in the Army. You know, because some of the folks, when I went in the Army, being born and raised in North Carolina on a farm, we had some people from New York and Chicago and basic training. I was like, I can't even understand these people, because they talked real fast and they got that accent.
Especially in Chicago. We talk
about yeah.
You mentioned, you see, this whole connection thing. You say North Carolina, the first thing I think about, believe it or not, is Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan studied at North Carolina. Yeah, then you said Chicago, and then that's where he played. Right. He's actually probably one of my heroes. This is the thing, you know, when you said around when you start talking about things and you don't necessarily have an idea of what you're going to talk about, something really weird happens. Where things just start flowing and connections start happening.
That's that energy. Because, like I tell people, you know, whenever you have a show, a podcast, or something like that, the host really is just presiding over it, and the guest, you know, when they start talking, they bring out that energy. That's what makes the show happen. Because otherwise, it'd be boring. You know, you'd be putting yourself inside of a box. You'd be limiting the energy that comes, and because.
It takes faith, though, doesn't it? It takes faith to be able to have a conversation where you might not know what you're going to say next.
Go totally wacky sometimes. Gotta reel him back in.
When you mentioned Michael Jordan, I remember one thing he had to overcome in his young life. He was cut from the junior varsity basketball team. And he said he never wanted to feel like that again. And we've got Mark Stephen Pooler, our good friend. He's watching us today. He made a couple of comments. He says, Pete Cohen is a great coach. And I tell you right now, everything I've read about you and seen about you, you are top notch, brother.
Well, thank you. If it wasn't for Mark, you know, we wouldn't be having this conversation, right?
That's right.
Mark connected us, and boy, does Mark have a story to tell. You know, his story is phenomenal, and I think that this is one of the things that is very apparent. How, you know, we're all in the story making business, right? So you told me, Jim, within a few moments that you were in the Army, right, for 17 years. Did you say 30 years? 31 years. You know, I bet you've got a few stories to tell, and it's great where you get to talk to people and you find out about their stories. You know, I love Joseph Campbell. You know, the guy, Joseph Campbell wrote the book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. He was George Lucas's mentor. You know, he spent his life traveling the world, teaching mythology, and seeing the commonality that people have. And the biggest commonality is definitely stories, right? Every story has someone who's called to an adventure. They don't want to go. like right now, you again, forgive me for like hogging and talking too much here,
No,
but
no,
you
you're good.
said at the beginning, I wasn't looking forward to this in a way because my mum has been diagnosed with lung cancer, and I know that she's struggling. I don't have children, not yet, but when you know that someone's in pain that you care about, that is very, very it's very challenging, right?
It's a
But I'm
heavy
so
load to
grateful.
carry.
Sorry?
It's a heavy load to carry. And yeah, I understand. And I put the website up there. Would you like to talk a little bit about that too while you're talking? So
Yeah,
please go
no.
ahead.
So, when we found out about the diagnosis, we're still waiting for a biopsy, but this happened just before Christmas. And my mum is really sensitive to the whole COVID thing, so I live about 100 miles from her. So I've only seen her like twice in a year. But I thought to myself, this is the situation that I'm in. I have to do something. I can't just do nothing, because if I do nothing, I know my mind will play ridiculous tricks on me.
Yes.
So I created a 30-day program which people can access there, and it actually is about creating the future that you want. Human beings have something called prospection, which is our ability to foresee things. To imagine how we want things to turn out and go and create those things. I don't think animals have that ability.
Yes, it's what differentiates us from the animals. You're right.
Yeah, that and choice, right? So, so I created that program, and it's very. I mean, I'm a bit like Tamara in terms of I'm really into personal development, and that's what I love to do. I love to help people. I'm obsessed actually with helping people. My dad brought me up to believe it's not what you know, it's who you know. And
Right.
I feel my world is better now because I've just met both of you. And my mum has always said there's an answer to everything. And now my mum finds herself in a position where finding an answer to the situation that she is in is a challenge, right?
Oh,
That's
yeah,
great, Pete.
sure, sure. And the website is mi365.me.
Me, yeah, me.
Me.
Yeah.
M
What
as
a
in
great
Mike.
gift.
Yeah, it really is. And that's a secret to life, and that's a secret to happiness in life, is by giving. Because once you start giving and you give from the heart, a lot of things happen effortlessly. I mean, effortlessly. I shared
Yeah.
earlier how our show came to, our little webinar really came to this show here. But whenever you give and you're focused on helping others, it just somehow or another it opens up doors for you. You don't even, and I'm living testimony of this, folks. It don't even take any intelligence for that to happen, because it just happens because your focus is on serving others. And the barriers just seem to get broken down, or whatever barriers may be there, you won't even see them. And I know that Tamara would fully agree with that, because I've known Tamara for about 2 years, 2.5, something like that.
How about that?
Yeah, and we tried to put on a show about 1.5 years ago. We had a good idea, but we couldn't get the energy behind it. But little did we know we were being put on reserve for this show.
Yeah.
And this just, it's just been a wonderful blessing for us. It really has.
So Tamara, why do you do what you do?
Wow. I feel like I've had some of the most amazing experiences in my life that have formed me to be ready to support others. At the age of 5, I was sexually assaulted. And, to recover from that without support and no one knowing, I didn't tell anybody until I was about 32 about it. So I kept that as dark secret. But out of that, I was dealing with, because of the trying to hold it in, I started creating like an eating disorder, because it was the only thing I could control. So I started doing that. And from there, I started to experience learning difficulties. So I had dyslexia. So school and social, and being social and interactive was a challenge. I was a big people pleaser. So I struggled a lot with feeling like I could fit in, and felt stupid and ugly and uncomfortable. So as I continued to embrace that journey, I started to realize how many people also feel a lot of those things. And so the opportunity was to heal myself along the way, but also to hold space and create that empathy and expansive self-forgiveness, along with, supporting others, they learn to forgive themselves too. So for me, segue from there into business, like you were talking about, business coaching and development. So
well, what you do is fascinating in terms of like some sort of conflict, dealing with conflict, right? And dealing with
resolution. Yeah.
Yes. That's one thing that's not my cup of tea. You know, that's a very English expression, right? That's not my cup of tea. But yeah.
Can't get enough of it. Bring your fights to me, as I always say.
So sorry, go on. Sorry.
I always see in every conflict is just a missed opportunity for better communication, better connection. So I look at conflict as the kind of the missing link for deeper connection. So if you really think about it, the reason you're fighting is because you're either resistance of what someone else is saying or something you believe. So you could be denying something that you believe and projecting it out, blaming someone else or blaming yourself for that experience. So
and how much do you think you going through the conflict that you went through in dealing with what happened to you has helped you see the conflict that exists in certain situations that you find yourself working in?
Such a great question. I feel like it was the other side of the story. You know, we all know the story of the miserable me within ourselves, but can you have the ability to discern or separate yourself from that to see what everyone else is seeing without making it personal? And that's what I love to do, is helping people recognize these aren't happening to you. They're happening for you.
That's what Benjamin Hardy talks about. You know, Benjamin Hardy, who has written the book Personality Isn't Permanent. He talks a lot about things don't happen to you, they happen for you. Well, that's a choice, right?
It is. Yeah. And I think that even in every aspect of our life, we can talk personal, business, you can talk about inner reflection and growth. It's all the same thing. How are you talking to yourself is literally what's being mirrored back at you.
So you know what, I'm sorry, because I'm so intrigued by this, Jim. So Tamara, where do you think that wisdom comes from for you to be able to have dealt with the challenges in your life and to get to the point that you're at now?
I have a lot of collective belief around this. I have, I believe not only does it some of it come from, I'm a person who believes in past lives. So I do believe that past experiences brought the knowledge forward for me. I think of surrendering to some of the life challenges that I've had and not getting angry and saying to myself, my biggest thing that I love to say is, they didn't happen to me. They're not me. They're experiences I had to be able to connect to others. So the sexual assault was an experience from someone who had lack, so I could experience the darkness of lack. I don't see it as, it happened to me. I'm not denying that I was sexually assaulted, but more a fact of I can get stuck there or I can celebrate the opportunity to learn something from it. And so I choose that route. So for me, it's always this really cool, playful expression of, okay, it's uncomfortable. I didn't like it. I don't want to do it again. Never want to do it again. But you know, that was with me for 32 years, where I relived that story by myself without anybody. So it was a lot of inner reflection and inner bullying and just really working through a lot of that.
I think the thing about that I get from that is just, you know, the strength that you obviously have, that I think we all have. It's just, I think we need sometimes some sort of disaster or prognosis or trauma to bring out the best.
Don't you think we all have that in different degrees? Like nobody gets life without, I hate to say it, PTSD somehow. There's always some traumatic experience. And I know I've got a couple clients who say, nothing bad's really happened to me. Well, in comparison to some others, you may say that, but you've gotten the work you need. So why not celebrate that? You know, we've all experienced adversity.
We most definitely have. And what about you, Jim? I'm going to make this like the Pete Cohen show, but
okay. All right.
What about you, Jim?
I got one question before we start. Is this a test? Because I may not be able to pass it.
Why do you do what you do?
Realistically, try to make a long story short, I spent 31 years in the military. 28 was in the reserves, which meant, you know, they say 2 weeks during the summer and a weekend a month and all that. But when you get up into the senior ranks, I mean, you're working, doing something every week. But the wake-up call for me was when I mandatorily retired, April the 15th, 2004. I was a course manager and oversaw, you know, instructors and training areas and all that. And, you know, now that I remember I went to the mailbox and I got this big manila envelope and it had 2 documents in there. The first one was my official retirement from the Army in I looked at it and reality started setting in. And I also had the honor of receiving a certificate awarding me being a lifetime member of the 95th Training Division because of all the years that I served. But what slapped me in the face was that, wow, this getting old is a new experience for me because I've been young all my life. But what I lost was my military family. That was the wake-up call, because I used to tell people, of course, I'd take off for 3.5 weeks. We go to summer camp for 2 weeks because I had a lot to do. I used to tell people, if they're dumb enough to pay me, I'm dumb enough to go to the bank and cash a check, because it was like almost like a vacation because I love doing it.
Yeah.
And the reason I do what I do now, working with people like Mark and you and Tamara and everyone, we've created a family of people that help one another in a true coalition type of thing. In other words, if I help you do something and you make money, yeah, I'm glad. You don't owe me a dime. And that it just gets electrifying. So that's what makes me, that's why I do what I do. It's a lot more fun than trying to grow tomatoes and cut grass and things like that. I mean, I can do those things, but I mean, it's it's about as much fun as sitting down there on a couch and watching your toenails grow. You know what I mean?
That military experience is really powerful, and I've worked with a lot of military people, and it's funny, when a lot of people who are in the military go into the corporate world, they really struggle.
Oh yeah,
because in the corporate world, especially where I come from, people will say one thing and do another.
Oh yeah.
And in the military, the services, the forces, it's like you say something, you're going to do it. Even if you don't like someone, it really doesn't matter. It's like this, we are the sum of our parts. And I've always really admired that that can exist, within those type of units. Is I've got your back and I'm here for you, rather than I'm going to take what's on your back, Yeah,
that's the one thing that people want. They want to know that when someone says something that they can depend upon their word. That's extremely critical, because my dad used to always tell me, if your word is no good, you're no good. And that's very true. And he says, if you ever give your word to do something, he says, at least have a bona fide reason. Don't, show up with some lame duck excuse. And that got branded in my brain growing up. And over the years, when someone would walk in, they'd be late. I'm sorry, I'm late. Okay, I know you're sorry. You're late and you didn't call me.
Yeah.
That's the way my brain would work, because I was so wired that way. And I'm not like that anymore. I'm more relaxed, easygoing. And, I respect people because, life happens, things happen, and you got to always look at someone else's position where they're at in life. Because there's been several times in my life when I would form an opinion about someone without knowing all the facts. And then later on, I'd find out other things that were facts that I knew nothing about. And I always say in my heart, thank you, sweet Jesus, I didn't open my big mouth and say something stupid.
Wow. Just imagine how different our world would be right now if more people did that. There's never been a time in my lifetime where people need to do that, especially in a place called the United States of America, right?
Oh, yeah, because right now there's so much ugliness and venom just being vomited on society. And, it's just, all that does is just fuel, rev people up on the inside, and it just spews more venom and hatred. And there's nothing good that ever comes out of something like that, in my opinion. I mean, you're either helping someone or you're tearing them apart. And, it's just, you got to have the kind of heart to treat people like you want to be treated. I was brought up in that kind of verbiage. And that's what I heard growing up, and mother used to tell me, if you can't say something nice about somebody, don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
And of course, growing up.
What did my mum, I think my mum said it's an answer to everything. And my dad always said, it's not what you know, son, it's who, right? That's why there's a part of my brain. Maybe you can feel this. I can't help myself. I have got to get to know you. I need to know who you are, what you're about, what makes you tick. And it's how I've been programmed, right? And what about you, Tamara? Did your parents say anything to you that you kind of live and breathe those words today?
gosh, it's put me on the spot.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think more of my parents lived by example. My father was a man who always bent over backwards for others. My mother was always there with a helping hand or a nurturing heart. They just really were good people. And I think being good people it sounds terrible to say this. It's hard to find good, genuine people that don't have that attachment to the outcome, that give to gain versus just give to give. And feel for me, that's what I live my life for. Is I don't look for where it's coming back as much as where's my next opportunity to give something big or better and help someone else feel more joy in their life.
So one of my, sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry.
That's okay.
I was going to say that, one of my favorite books is Think and Grow Rich. That was written by
Napoleon Hill.
Napoleon Hill in 1937, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't his idea. It was Andrew Carnegie's idea, who was, a Scottish man who had an idea, who was doing Morse code and kept hearing that the iron kept breaking. So he just asked the question, what's stronger than iron? And someone said steel. And obviously that idea made him the richest man in the world. But Napoleon Hill, who spent 25 years interviewing 500 people, one of the things that he said is that the era of the go-getter has gone. It's the era of the go-giver. Okay, that was 1937, and now we're in 2021. But it's never too late, right? And Martin Luther King said that. He said the most important question we should be asking humanity is, what can I do for you? How can I help you? What do you need?
Now, even John Fitzgerald Kennedy, when he was president, I remember him saying this. He says, "Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country." If he said, and when he said that, everybody's going like, "Wow, that's right." Because when you hear the truth, there's something about it that that it's right deep down inside.
Here's a $1 million question. Not to interrupt you, Jim. I apologize, but what's so fascinating? We all agree. We all agree that we need to be givers. We need to be, community-based, more collaborative, right? But we all across the world with COVID, the isolation and alienation and the depths of even, like for us, Black Lives Matter, and then we went into the whole election. I see it as the trifecta of self-awareness, rebirth, if you will. I feel like we had to purge all that nasty, limiting belief to really see it. But what's fascinating is I hear you guys speak. The one thing that I keep on hearing in myself is it's like we all know this, but we deny it on a daily basis. We get up and we think of like what's in it for me. Still, it's programming and kicking that in. And it's like, is that not the gift of life to, I feel that's what I'm here for, is to help change the way people behave. Like not tell them to behave differently, but to become aware of their behaviors, getting the same results that they want or that they're getting, not the ones they want. So it's fascinating. What were you about to say? I'm sorry.
In 1999, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue and ME. I was just burnt out basically. And I tried so many things to get better. And I ended up having a coach for 16 years. And he lived in Dallas, but he was actually from the Philippines. And he was 8 of 16 brothers and sisters. And he was the most amazing human being. It was funny, Jim, because, I say funny, he worked with the American soldiers who were being trained by the Filipino pygmies in the art of jungle warfare. And this is another story, but he just said the Americans really struggled because they didn't know how to blend in with the environment of the jungle. Whereas people who lived in the jungle knew how to be the jungle. And one of the he was involved with world hunger, and they lived with indigenous people all around the world, and they weren't allowed to interfere. They just had to watch and observe. And I learned so much from him. I mean, he saved my wife's life, by the way, and I'll tell you why. But basically, he told me once, he said, people don't change when you tell them. People change when their perspective changes. And he said, people want to be right, but my right is your left, right? And he said, what people need to do is they need to look at things from a number of perspectives, not just two. He said, physically, you've got the front, the back, the left, the right, the up, the down, and you see if you can look at things from multiple perspectives, because that is often where the answer is. And again, before we came on, we were talking about Houston, which is an area that I know very well. When my wife had a massive epileptic fit in my parents' house in London and was diagnosed with a very aggressive brain tumor, I called up my coach, and because I didn't know what to do. I was in a very fearful state. And I never forget what he said. He said two things that basically changed the course of my life and her life. The first thing he said is, find people who are still alive with the same brain tumor and find out why. Why are they still here? That was the first thing. I wouldn't have thought of that. It's so obvious, but I never would have thought of it, because sometimes we just need help. People need help. We need support. But the second thing he said is, what is she going to do when she gets better? Right? And I said, but what do you mean? She's been given 18 months. And he just went, so what? People defy the odds all the time. He actually said, ask her, what is she going to do when she gets better? I mean, to cut a long story short, I did find people that were still alive, and this doctor's name kept coming up, Dr. Stanislav Buzinski in Houston, Texas. Huge amounts of controversy. Texas Medical Board have taken him to court. The FDA taken him to court twice. He's won every time because, you know, he chooses to operate maybe outside of the box, which I think sometimes we need to look outside the box for solutions. But when I went to Houston to the medical area, like MD Anderson, and you see how big. Anyway, that's another story. But the reason I'm telling you this was 3 years after my wife had made this incredible recovery. I actually said to her, Raphael asked me to ask you what you're going to do when you get better. And she started crying. And the reason she started crying was she didn't think of the future. You know what? I didn't. I wasn't thinking. I just wanted to make sure she was okay. And it was through that I then searched on Google for, like, draw your future. That's what and then I found this woman who now also lives in Dallas. Her name is Patty Dolbovolsky, and she's done 3 TED Talks. You should get her on your show. I'm sure she would come on, right? Okay. She's done 3 TED Talks, and she specializes in drawing your future. I showed Hannah the TED Talk. She watched it. She started thinking about the future. She drew her future. We're now living in the house which she drew. Patty's become one of my best friends in the whole world. And it's this whole connection, like you said, Jim, right? You know, if you're open and you do good things just keep coming back to you. I'd love to connect you with Patty, because she is unbelievable. She's awesome.
It would be our honor to have someone like her on the show, because the show's all about, you know, information for the fans out there, for the audience. And I mean, anybody that shares great stories of inspiration stuff, I mean, this is a great show for them to be on. It really is. We're broadcasting millions of devices around the world, and we're just honored to be here. So yes, we would very much welcome and very much appreciate the introduction.
Consider it done.
Okay. Thank you. Now, let me ask you a question now. What's been the biggest challenge in your life?
I suppose the biggest challenge is learning to accept the gifts that I have, you know?
Isn't that true?
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I struggle with, if I can just add this right quick.
Yeah, of course.
Pardon me for interrupting. But one of the things that I've struggled with over the years is when someone pays me a compliment, I don't know how to handle that. And I don't know why. I just kind of like, you know, well, thank you or something like that. But it doesn't embarrass me, but it does make me uncomfortable. I'll be honest. But
I'm the same. I mean, I wanted to be recognized. And then when I started to get recognized, I felt extremely uncomfortable. And I think that I think there can be a few reasons, right, for that. One is the fact of, well, for me, it was never the answer that I was looking for. I wanted the recognition so that I could almost fill in a void of my own life. But the other side of it is, it's not healthy when people, if someone pays you a compliment, it's lovely to say thank you because they're giving you something.
Sure. Yeah.
Then if you crave that, this is just my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Then it's like you're some sort of false god. And
Yeah.
I'm not interested in that. I don't know about you. I get the impression with both of you very strongly that you want to be a part of someone's process, but you don't want to do the process for them. You want them to do it and own it, so it's theirs. It's not yours.
That, and they can be free. The whole
Yeah.
and be free and love the life they have.
Yeah, because we have a saying that we will be responsible to you, but we cannot be responsible for you, because then you rob the person of their integrity, the happiness of accomplishment, the joy and the jubilee that brings. Because regardless of what you do, I've learned this in life and I use this true example. I had a McCullough chainsaw one time. And I was telling someone on the radio show, I gave thanks for my chainsaw cranking. And I said, now, folks, that may sound a little nuts, but sometimes this thing takes 10 minutes to crank, and you keep pulling and pulling and pulling. By the time you get it cranked, you don't feel like working.
Yeah.
So when that thing cranked up, I give thanks.
Yeah.
The little things you give thanks for. That's what's important.
I do think it's true. There's a lot of people who would glean success off of others' success. And I think you're absolutely spot on about that. I think sometimes I struggle with getting recognition because I don't want to be a distraction, I guess, or that sounds even arrogant, but like, I don't want to be in the way. I want to like keep the momentum of that joy growing and just like let it go. Like it's magnificent.
It opens up a massive, I mean, it could be a can of worms. I don't know, but I was born in this country, in Great Britain. So are my parents and their parents. But then my great grandparents came from Eastern Europe, probably like maybe some of your ancestry, or Ireland or somewhere like that. And so we're of the Jewish faith. My surname is Cohen, which is a very Jewish name, but actually, believe it or not, when my great granddad got off the boat and they said, "What's your name?" he said Curran, and they wrote down Cohen. We're not actually Cohens, but we're still of the Jewish religion, if you like. But the reason I say this is that I went to a Catholic school, so I was brought up learning about Judaism, and I went to a Catholic school, so I learned about the New Testament, I learned about the Old Testament, I learned about Jesus, I learned about Moses, and when I get a bit older, I learned about other people like Muhammad and Buddha and all of these great teachers. And my feeling was with these people is, and this is where I might be opening up a can of worms, I don't think they wanted people to follow them. I actually think they wanted people to follow themselves.
I want them to be inspired, but not worship them.
Yeah, not to worship them. And when the film came out, which didn't go down very well in America when it came out, which was The Life of Brian, which is the Monty Python film, which wasn't actually making fun of Jesus. It was actually making fun of false gods. The fact that people would just go and follow someone. And think about how many false gods there are out there today who people idolize people rather than being inspired by other people to then be inspired themselves. And that's why people call me the inspirator, because I want to help people breathe life into whatever they want, something that's in front of them. And I think that's what people like Jesus and Muhammad and Buddha and all these people stood for. They stood up for possibility. They stood up for humanity. They stood up for everything that is great about this wonderful world that we live in, that we still have a chance to save it. It's not all gone. It's not all doomed.
Can you talk a little bit about your book? Because I know you're the inspirator. It's also, leading
the way in leadership. Yeah, I think, let's be honest, right? If we had a deeper conversation about this, I would imagine we would all agree that one of the hardest things to do is to be the leader that you want to follow. So, Tamara, what you've told me about your story, I would so follow you and so listen to you because you follow yourself. You're not perfect, but no one is perfect, right? You just do the best that you can. So for me, being the leader that you want to follow is being able to look at yourself in the mirror and be able to say, you know what? I appreciate who you are. I'm going to follow you because you're a good, honest, kind human being doing the best that you can. So that book, Inspirators, is based on the hero's journey. So it's going back to the guy I told you, Joseph Campbell, who looked at all of the stories in mythology. Every story is someone is called to an adventure. They don't want to go. They get a coach. They get a mentor. They cross a place. So whether it's The Wizard of Oz, whether it's Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Harry Potter, The Shawshank Redemption, pretty much every film, it's the same old journey. And that's what the book is about. And every chapter relates to a different film. The first chapter relates to Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins, she is the disruptor. She comes into she disrupts because they're not right. And everyone knows it, but the husband's in denial. The second film, this is the last one. The second film is The Matrix, in terms of, which pill do you want to take? Do you want to stay where you are, or do you want to? We love these films because we identify with the characters. And the last thing I'll say on that is, when Matthew McConaughey won the actor for the film in 2013 or 2014, wasn't that the Dallas? I can't remember the name of the film, but in his speech, it was amazing because all he spoke about was the making his future self proud. That's all he was interested in, right? And what a great guy that guy is, by the way. You should get him on your show. Let's get Matthew McConaughey on.
You manifest. Let's do it. He's a very inspirational person.
Yeah. And I love this show here because this is a show where the energy just coming and all the information there. I mean, I've learned a lot about Tamara, and she's learned a lot about me. And you've also out there, you've learned a lot about all three of us. And we're the thing about it that I really like is that all three of us are people that you can actually reach out and identify, maybe with all three or one of us or whatever. But the important thing of it is that you can relate to one of us or to two of us. And there's Pete's website. Let me put up his email address there, so you can get in touch with him over in the UK. And Tamara, I'll tell you right now, I'm really enjoying it. I wish we could do that. We ought to take this show on the road, Pete. You know that?
Well, one thing I'd like to do with both of you is let's organize. I have a very popular podcast as well, so I'd love both of you individually to be my guests.
Sure.
There's no question about that. I would love the people that follow me to hear your stories. Because people need to hear stories. I want to know more. You've said things that have made me go, I want to know more about that. But maybe another time. Tamara, what you've been through, I think people need to hear stories about how did someone overcome the adversity, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. If someone else has done something and got through something, it means that someone else can do it too. They just need to often hear it first, Yeah,
because Tamara, when I first met her out in Phoenix, and I introduced her to Don McGrath, the thing that really impressed me was that her inner beauty just flowed over from the inside out. It really did. And because she's just a beautiful person on the inside. And I teased her. I said, it's kind of like putting the icing on the cake, because because that's just the way it is. But I mean, the inner person of her is so beautiful, because I've seen her reach out and just, she is a person that just loves to help others in their hour of need. She can eat that in the morning, noon, and night, and never get hungry. I mean, that's just how much she just, she's fantastic in that regard. She's got a very special gift.
So that I can see that. The person who really set my personal development journey after having studied psychology and not really learning very much was, first of all, Zig Ziglar, and reading his book Over the Top. And that lovely quote, your inputs shape your outputs. And that book blew me away. And then I came home, and then I went into a bookshop and I asked, do you have anything like this? And then they said, Awaken the Giant Within, Tony Robbins. And, that book also massively it will open my mind to a new way of thinking. But the reason I tell you that, one of the most popular TED Talks of all time is Tony Robbins's Why We Do What We Do. And it's very interesting when he talks about the needs. We all have
Mm.
needs, right? The need for certainty, uncertainty, significance, and connection. And most of us get those needs met in a way that isn't necessarily positive. But I loved what he said about the higher needs. And this really changed my life when I started to get my head around this. Is he was saying those higher needs, those like spiritual needs, are growth and contribution.
Yeah.
And once I realized that's when I'm at my best, when I'm growing and contributing, nothing else really matters for me,
100%. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And then I'm at my best when I'm doing that. And when I'm around people like you, it's like, hey, just watch out, because now I'm not on my own here. So we come together, two of us, it's like we become a force that is almost unstoppable. And like you said, Jim, I'm sure people who are watching this now or watch it later they'll feel something like, what's actually going on here? What is this?
Yeah.
And it's a synergy, right? It's a force of nature. So
it really is, because the energy that's generated in a conversation like this, it's kind of like watching, grinding metal on a grinding wheel. The sparks are just flying, except the energy is just vibrating out there. And, it's just amazing how it just works. I mean, I wish I could explain it, but I know how it works, and I know how it attracts people and how it touches people. And one thing I'd like to say, one of the things that's amazed me in my life is that, you see someone you hadn't seen in 20 years and they run up to you. I remember when you did this, and oh my goodness, I never have forgot it. And you're thinking, okay, I don't even remember that, and it's always the little things in life, like the little hinges that will open the big doors. That's the thing that really means something to people. And funny story, out of school, when I first became an instructor, I suffered from glossophobia, the fear of public speaking. So I took some training, and fortunately I had some great instructors, senior instructors. They says, hey, just slow down, take a deep breath, relax, and focus on pronouncing your words phonetically. And it calms you right down. So I'm sitting there in the dining room the next summer camp, and these three young ladies come in and they say, hey, Sergeant Grant, how you doing? Oh, fine. And of course, I didn't recognize them because they look different when they're got their hair down than they do when they're up, And they said, you going to be our instructor this year? And I says, no, I'm teaching the same class. Oh, shoot, you were the best instructor we had. And I thought, are you kidding me? Really? I mean, because that goes into that self-doubt thing, and not really.
The other side of that is also just being humble. I think when you're humble, you don't want the attention on you, because it's just,
I don't feel comfortable there.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great quality to be humble, And I learned that from my dad, and I learned that from my coach. My coach who I mentioned to you, he introduced me to a world I never would have seen if it hadn't been for him.
It's kind of like, I was just going to say, it's kind of like a friend of mine used to say. He says, I sure am glad humble pie is not fattening, because as much as I've eaten in my life, I'd be big as a barn.
Well, maybe in America, if people ate more humble pie,
amen.
They wouldn't feel the need to eat so much pie. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's definitely a desire to be seen, that you take up more space.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
So when we're not really truly seen, we can consume it in different ways. So I think of, the behavior. So the behavior is I'm missing the sweetness of life. So I'm not really seen. So I'll eat more sweets. Or I'm feeling depressed or angry about life. So I'll eat crunchy potato chips. Or, I'm missing connection. So I'll eat those mashed potatoes and lots of butter. There's a lot of our emotions we eat.
Yeah.
We don't feel seen.
That's what Tony Robbins with those needs, right? Like certainty, uncertainty, connection. And if that's missing, you want to get that. And food, alcohol, drugs, they do those things, but they never give you that real sense of something amazing.
Yeah.
Where you get high on your own supply.
Yeah. There's no lasting satisfaction there, because it's not built on a solid foundation.
No.
Yeah.
And
It's interesting, isn't it, what we carry with us? We carry,
Oh, yeah.
Tamara, you talk about carrying past lives. I think we also carry the lives of people who we've met in this life, I most definitely too. And I never think I work alone, I work with the wisdom that so many people have given me. And that's also been a big game changer for me.
Love that.
But it never stops, right? We never stop learning. We never stop growing.
Keep going.
Well, that's one of my people say to me, my name is Pete Cohen, and people say, Pete Cohen, keep going.
Going?
Yeah.
Cohen, keep going.
Yeah. That's a good one. It's easy. I got the website up there again. And once again, for the folks out there that, just share a little bit about the mi365.me, if you would, sir.
Yeah, no, of course. So my365 is my podcast, and MI365 is me as an individual, you as an individual, working on yourself. And if you could work on yourself for 365 days, you'd probably find that you installed many different ways of habits, many different ways of thinking and moving through the world, reinvention. But you don't have to be our pasts. We can be our futures. We carry our past, we carry our present, we carry our future. And I'm really interested in helping people create a future that they want to go out and manifest. They get excited about that, because that's why children can be so great, because there's something that they can't wait to do. And I want to thank you for this, because like I said to you, I wasn't in the best of moods before, but now I feel so much better. You've given me something. And if people following this program, it's absolutely free. It's 30 days. So that's a big commitment. But I promise you, if you follow that 10, 15 minutes a day, the first 7 days are about awareness, just becoming aware of where you are and what's going on. The second 7 is about the action. What is the action that you maybe need to take in alignment with where you want to go? The third 7 days is all about A's, is about advancing, make advancing. And then the last 9 days are about accelerating. You can change your life in a moment, but it all starts off with the decision to do that. So I want to thank you guys. I can't wait to interview both of you and reciprocate, this experience. So we'll definitely set that up soon.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for the invite, because it's very nice for you to invite us to be on your show there. And I'll let Tamara go first, and, she'll let me know what I should do and what I shouldn't do.
You know what it is just be yourself, right? I mean,
I'm always teasing her.
So first of all, I want to say, if you guys could please step into something like this, because I know a lot of us can get really in our own way, but getting support for 30 days, what a great gift you're offering. And I'm thinking it'll be, for me, I'm going to step into it. I think it'll be so much fun, even though I know a lot of these things. It's just always great to do it with a community of people. That the collective energy is such a yummy thing to do. So I think it's just always doing things with intention and having a great momentum behind you of support. What a great space, especially with all this COVID stuff going on, where we feel so alienated and isolated from others. What a great idea to do something like this. Right.
I would honestly love to know what you take from that. And I know when we talk about being humble, and when the spotlight's on us, I have this overwhelming feeling to say how much love I have for both of you. And that is something that, I've often felt self-conscious about using that word love. But for me, love it's just this connection where I really care for both of you. And I genuinely love both of you. And I've loved this time that we've spent together. And I will remember this time for forever. I will take it with me. And it's not the end, right? It's just the beginning, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a wonderful beginning. And I'm kind of like you. I don't really, I could say I love a lady, like Tamara, because she's family and all that. But to a guy, I'll just say, hey, bro, you family,
Yeah, it means the same thing.
I don't use the word love with a guy for some reason. I just can't cross that bridge. I say, hey, bro, you family. That's it. Yeah. Game over.
I know what you're saying. And I thank you for it. I really, really do. So.
super excited to bond this relationship for
Oh,
sure.
yeah. We've got
You're
about
right.
a minute and a half or 2 minutes left. And, just want to, again, thank you so much. And anything, Pete, that you'd like to share with the audience, I mean, the mic is yours, the stage is yours, the camera is yours. You the man.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I say a lot is a great life, it doesn't just happen by chance, right? The life of being born, it's a miracle, right? The miracle of life. But to create a life, that happens by design. And we're brought into a world where we're not really encouraged to design an incredible life that we could look back one day and think, wow, look what I did. We conform. I think the most closely resembling animal to human beings is sheep, right? I don't think you get that many sheep where you guys are, but we get a lot of sheep. And one day, where I used to live, I heard a stampede outside my house. And I'm not joking. There was 100 sheep running past my front door into my garden. And I'm thinking, I didn't even know there were sheep around here. And then the next thing, about 5 minutes later, a dog comes in, a sheepdog. And before you know it, the sheepdog does what the sheepdog does. And all the sheep have gone. And that's what most of us do. We just follow mindlessly what everyone else is doing. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just curious as to what is possible. And sometimes if you're going to change your ways, and you're going to have to kind of go against the norm a little bit. And that's what your show for me represents. It represents possibility. It represents looking at life with a fresh pair of eyes, with a new perspective, and being open up to the only thing that exists in the universe, which for me is possibility.
Yes.
I go outside sometimes. I'm sure you have much clearer stars than we do here, especially in Phoenix and Tech. You can look up and you just think, wow, look at all this space, you know?
Right.
And despite COVID, despite all of the problems, there's still space for us to make a difference.
Yeah, in the universe, the Earth is not even a speck, not even a speck of dust. And I mean, the universe continues to expand. And I tell people in good humor that when my time comes and I check out and make the big escape, don't say rest in peace. Are you kidding me? I'm going to have a ball up there.
Yeah.
And I mean that. And I know it. I can't prove it, but I just know it,
New adventure.
You know what?
Next adventure.
Sorry, I was just going to say that if you want to see that journey that I went on with my wife and going to Texas, we made a film about it, and it's on a website called Team. It's very easy. teamhannah.com, HANNAH, teamhannah.com. And I made the film because the doctor who was treating my wife, if he had been convicted by the Texas Medical Board, they would have taken her off the treatment. So I just thought, I'm going to film this. And it's a pretty beautiful film that we made, actually. It's had thousands and thousands of views. So, but you might want to get a tissue out because it might make you cry. But I'll tell you right now, it's a happy ending. I could just hear my wife out there, who's the most beautiful human being in the world. Yeah. So thank you so much, guys. Enjoy.
Thank you so much. And I'd just like to say, Pete, that all the information you shared with us, the websites, and we'll go to the websites there. We'll make sure we put that in the description of the show. You can catch replays of our show at e360tv.com. Just scroll down to positive vibrations, and go to the right till you see Everyday People. And we also have a YouTube channel, Everyday People. We got it on Facebook. So be sure and catch us. And most importantly, share this wonderful program with all the great information that's been shared today with someone else, because you and I, we know people that need to hear this great conversation, because it was totally unscripted. And me and Tamara, we didn't mind getting called in on the carpet by Pete and answering some good questions, because that's what this show's about. It's about infotainment. It's about helping people to, find out something that they're looking for, and to be able to connect and be able to share, because everybody needs help. Absolutely. None of us are perfect, and none of us have it all, figured out. And, if you think you got everything in the bag, guess what? You got a hole in the bottom of your bag. And I just want to thank Pete so much for being here with us. And Tamara, I'll let you close with a couple of thoughts.
I want to say thank you so much for enjoying or spending time with us. I enjoyed you so much. I'm excited to go on our journey and learn more together. And Jim, of course, always so much fun to spend time with you. I look forward to my Fridays.
She's got to put up with me. That's why.
Not hard.
Yeah. But ladies and gentlemen, our time is gone. Pete, thank you so much. Tamara, always a pleasure to be here with you. And ladies and gentlemen, it's our pleasure to be with you. We hope you have a blessed weekend. Take care of yourself. Love yourself first, then you can love others. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.